which McLaren is going to lead the way in Canada. Pictured here from last race weekend, Oscar Piastri taking the top step, Lando Norris rounding things out in Spain, and very strong performances all the way around, pretty much. They dominated the weekend, but more questions are going to remain at the front about which driver is going to lead the way in Canada. We talked about this a lot. We have remained talking about this. It is remaining a topic of conversation, and it probably will remain a topic of conversation throughout the rest of this season. Which of these two drivers is going to take advantage of the conditions this weekend? They've split the last 2 weekends in Monaco and in Spain. Oscar Piastri taking Spain, Lando Norris taking Monaco, the crown jewel of the F1 calendar. So far in the year, Piastri has made the most of his opportunities, and with the gap closed in qualifying pace thus far this season, he's not squandering opportunities. He's not messing up his chances. He's continuing to perform at an incredibly high level, staving off a guy like a Max Verstappen, keeping an arm's distance well away from a guy like a Charles Leclerc, from a George Russell, and not making mistakes, really. Is Oscar Piastri still quick enough and is going to remain quick enough to keep Lando Norris that much further away in this World Drivers' Championship fight? I think that because he's made the most of his opportunities with this gap that he's closed in qualifying pace, I don't see any reason why he can't take another top step this season. I think he's got 5 wins so far this year. Doubts about Oscar Piastri? I don't have a lot of those. Doubts about Lando Norris, however, I do have. I have voiced those over the course of this season. Feel free to go back week by week. I pissed off Kevin a lot talking about the problems with Lando Norris, but Lando seeming to be his own worst enemy. But in the context of this weekend, with good conditions, so far as what I can tell, the weather conditions look very, very, very favorable this weekend. I think the maximum amount of rain we might be seeing on like Saturday might be at 15%. I'm not exactly sure what Friday's forecast looks like, but I think very low chances for rain. We're probably going to see some clouds in Canada, but we're not going to see a lot of weather. We're not going to see a lot of weather impacts as far as this weekend is concerned. So with the conditions not expected to be nearly as hectic as they were last season, the question is going to just remain, can Lando Norris take this opportunity? Can he make the most of this opportunity? And all in all, Grand Prix Sunday is going to be determined by Quali Saturday. I mentioned this in the segment prior. I think Max Verstappen is going to remain a huge factor to take a sprint or a qualifying pole. Lando Norris a year ago finished a 10th ahead of his teammate in McLaren to secure, if I'm not mistaken at the time, it was P4 or P3. No, P3. P3 performance, finishing P2 on race day. And it was a Grand Prix that Lando Norris could very well have won, if not for a bit of a strategy miscue by McLaren, sending him out there on the dries, but onto a bit of a wet surface, caused him to lose some traction towards the waning laps of the Grand Prix, towards at least the latter stages of the Grand Prix, allowed Max Verstappen to reclaim the track position and effectively walk his way into another Grand Prix win. Lando Norris might not have really lost that race. He was unable necessarily to take advantage of that opportunity that he had, but that's less to do with him and more to do with the team. So my prediction, once again, I think it's going to be leaning towards Oscar Piastri this weekend as far as just general performance is concerned. I think that Oscar's just looked a lot more consistent this year. Lando's got so much more experience within this team, but has shown a lot more inability to remain clutch and to clutch up when necessary. Oscar's just unfazed, unwavered. Grand Prix Sunday going to be determined by Saturday. Max is going to remain a factor. Lando Norris, I think, has a really, really, really good opportunity at a circuit that he has performed well at in the past. But I think that with Oscar making that extra leap this year, with making that extra step, has made this championship complexion, A, very, very, very different. B, Lando Norris, I don't know if he quite has that clutch gene, but do you guys think Max is going to bounce back? Do you think that Oscar Piastri is going to, take advantage of this opportunity this weekend? Do we think that Oscar is just going to be the clear and away favorite and he's going to win it all? It's going to have a dominant weekend from beginning to end. Do we think McLaren are going to just dominate things across the board? You guys let me know down in the comments below.